Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel and hanging out with me today. And got a good video for y'all today, guys. We're going to be giving some really good bait casting tips as far as different type of ways to cast a bait caster, some tricks that will give you more efficiency with that. And I wanted to pass along some of the tricks I've learned because you guys may have heard it in the past, but I won the Bass Pro Shop National Casting Competitions some years ago against all the top casters in the United States. And I've had a chance to pick up on a lot of casting tips and skills I'm just going to pass along to you guys in today's video. I'm also, guys, if you didn't see it yesterday, I just wanted to make everybody know if you guys are looking for some good rod sleeves, guys, check out these Evolv rod sleeves here. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description to link them to the Evolv rod sleeve. Guys, these are the state-of-the-art rod sleeves if you're looking for a good pair. They're made out of scuba diving grade neoprene, so your hooks don't get caught up in it. UV protection, it doesn't fade out, and it's got this nice little tether here that will attach to the reel of your handle so your sleeve doesn't slide off, because a lot of times, you guys know, where you're pulling them out of a rod lock or something, or the wind gets them to blow off. But anyway, guys, check them out. I'll link in the description. Evolv rod sleeves there. I think you guys will really like them. Okay, guys, one of the things I've tried to do, we've talked about this some in the past, is back when I started fishing, you know, I didn't have money to go to the lake very often. It's like if I wanted to go to the lake, I had to mow grass for a couple weeks to get up enough money to go to the lake. Didn't have a lot of places to go, but I loved to fish and I wanted to get better. And one of the things that I could take control of was casting. Casting was free and I could spend as much time with it. And I got really, really good at casting. And I tried to master every specific technique and type of casting to really give myself more efficiency on the water, to maybe give myself a little bit of an edge for the people that had more money than I did that could afford to go to the lake. And as a result, you know, the 2 years that I competed in the Bass Pro Shop National Casting Competition, I got second place the first year and I won it the second year. So I'm gonna pass along a few of those tips here. Okay, guys, the first thing as far as your casting skills goes, I mean, you got to have an outfit that you're comfortable with. I mean, and you got different type of rods for different type of casts, but I'm just going to use one today for for today's video. And then you just have to have a nice reel that feels balanced in your hand. Everything has to feel balanced. Now, there's a couple different tricks on here that I want to pass along that will increase the amount of bass that you cast simply because you're more efficient in casting. So I sort of want to go over the basic casts and how to, execute those casts and some tips to make it a little bit different on there. So first of all, one of the biggest mistakes that I see guys making is they cast with their whole body. And I can look at somebody and I can tell how good of a caster they are, because watch here, guys, here's the way somebody casts that typically doesn't cast very much, is they load up like this and they go, it's almost like they're trying to throw the whole thing in there. It's like they use their whole body to cast with. Guys, you don't want to use your body. Most of the time when you're casting, you want to keep your shoulders and your arms stationary, and you want it to come from the wrist all the time. So when you're pitching and flipping, say for example, pitch with your wrist out there. Just look at your target, just like this. A lot of people when they're pitching and flipping, they go like that. Notice, and you've seen it before. I mean, if you may cast like that, or you've seen people, but when you're pitching and flipping, just use the wrist there. Nice little wrist flick. Try to keep everything stationary here. Avoid going like that. And you can, switch it back and forth. Once you've mastered pitching and flipping with your wrist, go right-handed, go left-handed, just learn to change back and forth, because let's say, for example, you're working down a shoreline here. And, maybe you got some rocky bank over here, you got some laydowns here. So I can go down through here and I can pitch, with my right hand here, just pitching and flipping like that. And then if I see a target over here, I immediately go with my left hand over here. Then I see a target over there, I switch to my right hand, and it just goes back and forth. So one of the best things you can do to maximize your efficiency with casting is learn to be ambidextrous. It's really easy to do, just to switch back and forth, and it becomes just a fluid motion with that. And that's the way it should be, guys. Your rod and reel should sort of be an extension of your body, extension of your hands, and just try to make your motions just nice and poetic and just smooth like that. Don't make them herky-jerky. Try to keep your body stationary. It's going to be a lot better accuracy creation with that. So that's one of the pitching and flipping styles. The other styles, guys, that you need to master is some type of a sidearm cast like this. Now, a lot of times, say for example, you're skipping and pitching a bait, or you may not be skipping and pitching it, but you're trying to get it up underneath an object that may be too far for you to flip or pitch. Same thing, guys, from the side with the wrist. Don't go like this. You know, keep that arm stationary. Just use that wrist back and forth just like that. Same deal, sideways, back and forth. Now, that's sort of for a sidearm cast. Now, for the overhand cast, one of the big things with an overhand cast that will help you is you see a lot of guys, they cast overhand with their reel in their right hand, and they go like that. The way to cast overhand to maximize your distance and your accuracy, instead of casting like that, cast from your left hand and put your right hand on the bottom of the reel handle here and cast like that. The generation of power that you have, it's like a leverage point right here, and you can go boom like that, and you can get so much more distance than you can from the other side. There's just something about the way the body mechanics work, you know, always has worked out pretty good with me. Another thing with the bait caster, it's going to give you a lot of advantage with that, is learn how to adjust your magnetic reel, your drag, not your drag, but your magnetic tension right there. Every lure is different, and the amount of tension that you have depends upon, you know, a lot of different factors. How far you want to cast, you know, how hard the wind's blowing. But in general, what you want to do is just adjust your tension right there to when you push your free spool, your lure falls about maybe 1 foot every 2 seconds, something like that. That gives you real balance with that. So main thing with it, guys, is just, if I could give you one piece of advice that stands out above anything else, is just learn to cast with your wrist here. Just keep your arm stationary, keep your shoulder stationary, cast with your wrist. And another thing is, when you're calculating your distance out there, you don't ever want to cast right to your target. You always want to cast past your target that you're throwing at. I don't care if it's any type of a structure in the water. Cast past your target and allow your bait to be brought up next to the cover. Don't just cast right on top of the cover. That's going to give you a lot of advantage with that. Another thing to consider with your bait casting, guys, consider the wind direction. You know, a lot of times you have to compensate for the wind. That's one of the biggest problems I see a lot of people, is they don't learn to compensate with the wind that much. And finally, you know, quick tip is stand up when you're fishing. Unless you have some type of a disability or handicap that does not allow you to stand up, if you learn to stand up and cast, your efficiency is going to increase 25%. It's like, from an athletic standpoint, all of the casts that I talked about, the pitching and flipping, the casting, overhead, underhand, anything like that, it's better done standing up. So really try to, you know, consider that into your factor with that. And one other final thing as far as casting that's going to be a big consideration is your line size. A lot of people don't realize that, but your line size has a big impact on the distance of your cast, sometimes the accuracy of your cast. So always consider that, you know, before you actually do it. But the main thing above anything else, guys, aside from keeping your, you know, body stationary and using your wrist, is you just have to practice. It's like anything else, you can't get better at it unless you spend some time with it. And overall, I see casting becoming a sort of a lost art form, because the sheer act of casting around targets, not just targets, but even if you're casting a structure, if you can put that bait where you want it to every single time, the amount of fish you catch is just going to go through the roof. And I'll give you guys an example. It's like a lot of the on the water lessons that I do, you know, sometimes I'm teaching people how to pitch and flip. And the fish can be really, really biting. And I may be getting a ton of bites, and somebody with me may not be getting hardly any bites at all, simply because they cannot make that cast. And if I try to tell somebody, it's like, see that little hole in that bush, that little opening that big, put your bait right in that opening. You can't put it 6 inches to the left or 6 inches to the right or 6 inches in front or below it. Put it in that hole right there. And that's where you're going to get the bite. And if you can't execute that cast, you're simply not going to catch any. You're not going to hardly catch very few fish. So spend time practice casting. That guys, I can't reiterate how important that is. When you watch these YouTube videos and you're trying to find your, the best color, the best bait, the best technique, the best approach to catching fish and patterns and all that type of stuff, that's a big part of fishing. But if you can't make that cast and you can't put that cast where you want it to be, you're never going to hardly catch any fish. I could take somebody, for example, that maybe has fished 30 years and knows a lot about bass fishing, but they just suck at casting. And then I could take somebody that has never caught a bass their whole life and teach them how to cast. And let's say they pick it up real quick and they turn into an expert caster. They may not know anything about a bass, but if I tell them to cast that lure in that hole, they can do it. That person that has no experience in bass fishing and has never caught a bass is going to catch more bass than that experienced angler that cannot cast there. So I think it's part of bass fishing that gets way overlooked with it. The main thing, guys, is just get out there, spend some time with it. Get you an outfit, a rod and reel combination that you're comfortable with, and you'll notice a huge difference if you just get a lot better with your casting. So hope it helps out. We'll see y'all later.